like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity with Young Men. And today we've got a really interesting live audience here on this one today that's going to have some interesting topics. In the pre-show, of the podcast, we asked people what they would like to accomplish, and then kind of put them in order of what we think you, the audience, is going to be most interested in. And so Mary Jo, hers went right to the top of the list. Like, it's just like, yep, that's one. So Mary Jo, what topic did you want to cover today for young men?
As a woman, how to deal with stereotypes that any man can put on women.
Yeah. So when I was 23, 24 years old, I went into the mortgage industry as a loan officer, and I covered a very affluent, a very wealthy area in the Chicago suburbs, Oak Brook and Hinsdale. So very, very expensive homes, um, like very expensive homes, multi-million dollar homes. It was crazy. And so I knew I'd be really successful. I wasn't. And in that area, there's a lot of old money. There's a lot of meaning that, multiple generations, and a lot of the realtors in that area are going to be women in their 50s and 60s. And so I'm a young male. So what do they think of young males? Stereotype of a young male from a woman in her 50s and 60s.
Young and irresponsible.
Yep, they're dumb and irresponsible. And why do women in their 50s and 60s think that young males are dumb and irresponsible?
Because they are.
That's where a stereotype comes from. Stereotypes come from, and if you go ahead and read a book, Kenny and I have read this book, Talking with Strangers, I think is the one it is, where there's a tipping point, and I think it's a third. I think it's a third of the people or something. If a third of the people will do it, you get a stereotype. Like, there's a tipping point where this group of people, now if you've only met three young males and all three of them, are dumb and irresponsible. And so I could feel the judgment. I could feel it. Like, I could feel this guy's dumb and irresponsible. He doesn't know what he's doing. And when you're dealing with people's, they have control on if they're going to refer me any business or not. So what did I do with that stereotype that, could have killed me in the industry?
You addressed it?
How?
By not being that.
By not being it. Doesn't do any good to talk about it. Like, stereotypes will not be broken based on talk. Hey, I want you to know I'm not a dumb and irresponsible man. Like, people that talk often don't do. So I went ahead and I'm like, that's kind of cool because I'm all set. I mean, forgive the language, I kicked its ass. That stereotype, like that, like immediately, it's like they're going to go ahead and see, not here. They're not going to hear my talk about how I'm not. They're going to see Mark Boersma is totally different. Like, holy cow. Like, and then they've been hurt too. So there's stereotypes, but in addition to that, then there's hurt. And what's the hurt?
Probably from them when they were dealing with.
Right. They used to be young women. And some stupid young man went ahead and, some stupid young man went ahead and broke their heart. He was dumb and irresponsible. Well, Mark, that was 40 years ago. Doesn't matter. They'll remember that for the rest of their life. So they had that happen. What else did they have probably happen to them?
Maybe their daughter.
Their daughter. So they had a daughter, and man, and they might have a daughter right now, like a daughter right now that's going through some dumb and irresponsible young men. And so, what else might have happened? They might have had a granddaughter like, who's dating a stupid, you know. Did I go ahead and get a whole bunch of young men together and do a march down Hinsdale March and say, we're being stereotyped? Did I get a bunch of young men together and march and say, you can't stereotype us, this is wrong?
No.
No. What am I doing now to go ahead and break those stereotypes? I'm having something like this, like Podcast for Young Men. Don't be stupid. Don't be dumb and irresponsible. Just don't do it. Like, don't do it. Like, stop it. Because you're making all of us look bad. Like, so young men, call out other young men. Like, just do it. Just call out other young men. You're being dumb and irresponsible. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now, then I'm just concerned with myself. Now I can be concerned with young men. Now, now I can be concerned for you guys and say, hey guys, this is not going to work out well for you. It's just not, I'm just saying, it's not going to work out well for you. It's not going to work out well for you. Back then, I'm like, well, this is the stereotype that they have of me. They have the stereotype. I figured it out. You might be thinking, dang, that guy was smart at 23, 24. I don't know. It seemed like common sense. It's like, why are they thinking this way about me? Because so many are this way. So how I break the stereotype? Well, I bring my wife of 4 years, so we've been married 3-4 years, and I bring her to, we're married. Like, we're not dating, we're married. And we bought a house. And we have a new baby. And she's not working outside the home. She's staying at home with the baby. And all of a sudden I go from dumb and irresponsible. Now I did go ahead and let them know too that I had, 3 college degrees in business and finance. So I let them know that too, to go ahead and try to overcome. And I had owned a number of companies too. So I let them know, and all of a sudden the stereotype changes so I'm taking the stereotype and I'm using that negative as a positive. Like, I'm standing out and saying, this guy's different. Like, this guy's on fire. This guy's like, he's so different. So I use the stereotype to my advantage, just like in martial arts. What they do is they teach in martial arts, use the strength, the size of your opponent, your attacker, use their strengths against them. So you use whatever stereotype, it is. It's interesting. I asked young Black men and women, I say, what's your greatest advantage? And I've asked a number of young Black men over the years, what's your greatest advantage? What's the greatest gift you have? Not one of them have said it's being a young Black man. And that's what I've told them. They say whatever they say, it's their intelligence, they're this and this. I said, well, those things all help you, but your number one advantage of being a young and being who you are is you're a young Black man. And they're like, I don't get it. Like, are you kidding? Everybody wants to help young Black men succeed. Not everybody. I mean, not everybody. There are prejudices, there are this and that and whatever. But by and large, in my experience and in the world I live in, all around the world, people want to help young Black men succeed for multiple reasons. I mean, there's a ton of reasons on it. And so whatever you are facing as a stereotype, you can go ahead and flip it on its head. So let's talk about specifics. So Mary Jo, or anybody, what are some stereotypes about young women?
I know one that I've run into a couple of times in the past is they don't know what they're talking about.
Yep. So they're dizzy, ditzy, flighty, you know, they don't know what's that?
Giggly.
Giggly, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So they have all of those things. Now, they're not they're not a 60-year-old man like myself that has 4 daughters and 6 granddaughters. And it was interesting because Rosanna, my wife, I think I talked 2 hours to Hannah yesterday. And Rosanna said, "What do you enjoy most about talking and helping Hannah in her business?" And I said, "It's like she's open. It's like she's appreciative. She's thankful. She's grateful." Um, and I said, "It doesn't hurt. I mean, she's young, she's attractive, she's kind of giggly. I mean, I kind of like that. It kind of reminds me back when I was a young man, and it reminds me of my 4 daughters and my 6 granddaughters." And so, women, and a lot of that comes back to personalities. And so, it's really important to understand as a woman or anyone, if you're looking at stereotypes, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You would think, well, young white male, he's not going to be everybody's stereotyped. It's human nature. It's how we're created. It's how we learn. Babies stereotype. They just do. Dogs, they stereotype. They just do. Like if they've been hit by someone that type, like a man, how many dogs do I know? A number of dogs that don't like men. They just don't like men. Why? Because men did something to them. They did something to them. So there's memory. And so you kind of have compassion for the person who's doing the stereotype because, they've experienced harm. They've experienced trauma. They've experienced something. So a lot of it's the personality. And so, as a man, like, and it hurts everybody. I work with a lot of women. And I'm telling you, it's interesting. I was talking about a specific country yesterday, and I was talking about how my experience with men in that specific country think they're really smart. They think they're really smart, smarter than everybody else in the room. And they do produce a lot of doctors in the world and a lot of smart people. So, it's not that they're not, but there's intelligence and, there's IQ, EQ, and IQ, and a whole bunch of intelligences. And so and I was saying they don't treat. And it was interesting because there was one of our clients, the husband I work a lot with and the wife some, and the wife came back and said, "Well, it's not just that country that doesn't treat." So for me as a man, you treat one of the women in my life improperly, I don't care who it is, you're done. Like, I will absolutely take you out. I'll mistreat you. Want to mistreat them, I'll show you mistreatment. Like, I have zero tolerance for that kind of thing because, they're trained and they're skilled in doing certain things. If you're a young woman and you feel your stereotype, look and say, well, what percentage is that is true? Like, take ownership of it and say, well, I'm not going to be that type of a woman. And if people want to think of me as that type of a woman, I'm giggly, I'm silly, I'm not this, whatever. If people want to see me that way, that's up to them. It's their loss. It's their loss. So I think whoever being stereotyped needs to look and take a good look at themselves and say, am I that way? And how do I make sure that I'm extra sensitive? So, young men, dumb and irresponsible, don't show up late. Like, do not show up late. Young women, come prepared. You're going to probably have to work harder in the area to overcome the stereotype. You can't just be what everybody else is. You have to work harder in those areas. So women have to work harder to be more knowledgeable to get recognized. They just do. And it's okay. You'll benefit from that. And don't be a victim. Like, don't go ahead and don't allow feelings to go ahead and overcome you. Don't be entitled as a woman. Don't be self-righteous as a woman, and don't be a victim as a woman. I can't tell you how many women use the mom voice on me. Sometimes my own daughters do. Like, you're not my mom, Mark. They're condescending to men. That's not going to work. Like, my mom was my mom. She got to talk to me that way. You're not my mom. Even my wife sometimes will talk to me as my mom. I'm like, you're talking to me as my mom. Like, and so often we're stereotyping one another. We don't even know it. Women stereotype men stereotype women, young stereotype old stereotype young, black stereotype, Hispanic stereotype Indian, stereotype Chinese. Everybody's stereotyping everybody. So you look at it and you say, what percentage am I? Like my grandfather said, Mark, when somebody says something that, about you, there's some percentage of truth. It could be 1% to 99%. So if it's something negative, well, then I'm going to make sure that I'm not that kind of person. Anything else, Mary Jo, on that topic?
I don't think I have anything else on that. Thank you for going into it.
Yeah. And guys, I'm just telling you,
I think it's pretty cool that
do not mistreat your mom. Do not mistreat your sisters. Do not mistreat the other women in your life. Be extra sensitive about that. Don't talk down to them. They have different intelligence than you do. So you're intelligent in some areas, and you're ditzy men in some other areas. And so look at yourself and then make sure that you're not allowing other people to mistreat women. Same thing. Don't allow a group of women to go ahead and talk down, mistreat men. And so become who you're created to be. Kenny, I think you are next.
There was a situation yesterday where somebody asked me for some help, and I like to help people out where I can, but how do I know if I'm in a situation where I can do that, or do I, hey, I've got my own business too.
Yeah, it's a decision-making process, and so you're going to be stereotyped. You're a young male. You're not married. You don't have any kids. You have all the free time in the world. There's some truth to that. But you got a business, you got a lot of other stuff going on too. And so there's a decision-making process. The podcast on Sunday with Norman's going to be really interesting. I think that's at 7 Eastern time on Sundays. And we're going to go into decision-making, like an algorithm for decision-making. So he went through the 30-day challenge. And so, and he did fairly good the first 10 days. And then I think he just dropped out. Didn't really tell anybody. I think he just dropped out. And I don't know. So I'm going to be interested to peel back that algorithm. So the computer background I have, there's algorithms. There's like our decision-making process. We have decision-making. So it's not easy, Kenny, and it's not going to get any easier. It's only going to get harder. And
right.
So
go ahead. I thought about when I was doing the 30-day challenge last time, you mentioned something about how you did everything that came across your desk.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, maybe I should try that.
Yeah. The challenge is what if, so you say yes to everything. Well, what if somebody says, hey, there's a birthday party on Saturday at 10 o'clock and somebody says, hey, there's a, birthday party at 10 o'clock, I mean, I guess you could go to one for an hour and then go to another for an hour. So we can do a lot more than we think we can. I probably had an advantage because I was a driver. If you're an amiable and you do that, that could create some issues. I'm not saying that a driver might say yes to something and then then the people who ask them to help wish they hadn't because of attitude. Like, I'm not saying that. I think the video that comes to mind is the energy vampires. So,
yeah.
So on one of the energy vampires, somebody's always asking you for help. And so, they're always asking other people, they're always asking other people. I mean, there's some people, even when you give them an option, some young men, they just like, are you going to put this, are you going to do this with this? Or they'll just let women do the work. Like, really? Like, you think that's going to make you look good? I mean, fortunately, nobody on this call would ever go out and do something like that. I mean, that's going to be the case because they know, like, are you carrying your fair share? And so a lot of people in the expressive often, it seems like, is the expert at that. But the amiable, they're good at getting other people to do things too. The analytic, they can go ahead and do it too. The driver, they just use hard power often. Anyways, so there's a decision-making process in your head. And so you go through the decision and you weigh those things out and you look at those things and then you say, did I make a good decision? How could have I made a better decision than what I did? So with Norman, I'm thinking, okay, why didn't you share with other people in the group? But he's stereotyped. He was raised Amish. So he's an Amish young man. So he doesn't know how to communicate. Like he just doesn't know. Poor guy. He doesn't know. He couldn't go ahead and say, well, hey, I'm thinking about dropping out. Like did he not think about the impact on the other people that are going through? Well, if he did think about it, did he consider that? Did he go ahead and communicate that? Hey, I'm doing this, or did he just drop out? Did he not talk? Is he like in a car and he just changed lanes? He didn't put the blinker on, just changed lanes. It's like, I mean, are we doing this as a group? I mean, did you do that in, like, the poor guy? Did we do that? Did you do that when you played football or basketball? Do you play that in sports? Do you do that at camp? Like, do you just like, or are you treating this something differently? And so, so I wonder if sometimes the expressive personality, if they do things just to irritate, or if they do things that are inconsiderate, I don't know, to get attention, but they want to talk, they want to be part of the group. And it's like, well, if you mistreat a woman in my life, you're not going to be part of the group. You're going to be sitting on the outside. You're going to be sitting on the bench, and you're not going to be able to talk even in a podcast. You're going to just sit there. Just wait. Like, don't mistreat the women. I didn't mean to. I don't care if you meant to or not. Don't ever do it again. Like, don't have them doing work, that you should be doing. So hopefully this has been helpful to everyone today. If you have any questions on this, connect with the individuals, definitely share it. Like, have you ever heard anybody talk about stereotypes? I mean, this is not the first time. Obviously, I've talked about stereotypes, and I've given it some thought. And I'm saying, there's a lot more to that than what meets the eye. I mean, there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of pieces in there. So share this with other people and get their input. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or even call toll-free 888-230-2300, outside the U.S. 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.